I'd like to testify. My name is George Pettignano, and welcome to the next installment of That's Life. Today, I have a special star on, Joe Lisi, and a surprise guest. So stick around, let's have a good time, and again, I testify we will have a great show tonight. A song by Mr. Louis Prima. A very serious song. Buonasera, signorina, buonasera. It is time to say goodnight to Napoli. Though it's hard for us to whisper buonasera with that old moon above the Mediterranean Sea. In the morning, signorina, we'll go walking when the mountains and the sun come into view. And by the little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Da do ba do da do ba da zaba da ba do ba 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 zaba do be. A buonasera, signorina, a buonasera. It is time to say goodnight to Napoli. Oh, well, it's hard for us to whisper buonasera with that old moon above the Mediterranean Sea. In the morning, signorina, we'll go walking when the mountains and the sun come into view. And by that little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Oh, buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight, yeah! Yeah! Oh! Yeah! By the little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Oh, sera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Yeah. How many of you remember 2001 Odyssey? All the clubs of the 70s. I know you remember them, so do I. That's when we had fun. This is a song I'd like to do for you to bring you back to those days, Mr. Barry White. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, my first, my last, my everything, and the answer to all of my prayers. Yeah. You're my sun, my moon, my guiding star. You are like that first breath of spring on a brand new day. I know there's so many ways that I could love you till oh the day that I die. Girl, you're my reality. You're my heart forever, dear. You're my first and my last, my everything. Yeah. In you I'll find oh so many things. Yeah, love so new that only you oh could bring. Can't you see it's you, my lucky star? You are like that first breath of spring on a brand new day. I know there's so many ways that I could love you till all the day that I die. Girl, you're my reality. You're my heart forever, dear. You're my first and my last, my everything. Yeah. Here we go. I know there's only one like you. There's no way, no way, no way, no way, no way they could have made two. Girl, you're all I'm living for. You're my heart forevermore. You're my first and my last, my everything. To everybody that likes the monkeys out there, so did I growing up. Oh, I could hide 'neath the wings of the bluebird as she sings. My 6 o'clock alarm would never ring, but it does, and I rise, wipe the sleep out of my eyes. My shaving razor's cold and it stings, yeah. Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? I once thought of yous as a white knight on a steed. Now you know how happy I can be, but with others gone around, with $1 not to spare. But how much, baby, do we really need? Yeah. Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? Oh, it's so very nice to have to leave the one you love, and it gets more lonely with each passing day. Yeah, it's so lonely just sitting there and dreaming of that girl 1,000 miles away. Well, every time I hear your sweet voice on the telephone, and I know I just can't stand it anymore. I'm gonna go right back and tell her that I love her so. Call her back and say, I'm coming home to stay. Yeah! No, it's not very nice to have to leave the one you love, and it gets more lonely with each passing day. Well, it's lonely just sitting there and dreaming of that girl 1,000 miles away. Now every time I hear your sweet voice on the telephone, and I know I just can't stand it anymore, I'm gonna go right back, tell her that I love her so. Call her back and say, I'm coming home to stay. Call her back and say, I'm coming home to stay. Mr. Gene McDaniels, 100 Pounds of Clay. When is the last time you heard this song? He took 100 pounds of clay, and then he said, hey, listen, I'm gonna fix this world today, because I know what's missing. Then he rolled his big sleeves up, and a brand new world began. He created a woman and lots of loving for a man. Oh, yes he did. With just 100 pounds of clay, he made my life worth living, and I will thank him every day for all that joy you're giving. And I'll thank him every night for the arms that are holding me tight, 'cause he did it all with just 100 pounds of clay. Yes, he did. Oh, yes, he did. Now, can't you just see him walking round and round, picking clay up off the ground, doing just what he should do to make a living dream come true? He rolled his big sleeves up, and a brand new world began. He created a woman and lots of loving for a man. Oh, yes he did, with just 100 pounds of clay. Yeah, people, let me tell you what he did with just 100 pounds of clay. Oh, 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 oh. Now we're going to do a song by Mr. Sinatra. Very cool. Fly me to that moon and let me play among those stars. Let me know what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me swing forevermore, because you are all I long for, all I worship, and adore. In other words, please be true. Yeah. In other words, I love you. Yeah, Joe! Why don't you fill my heart with song and let me swing forevermore? Because you are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
Hi, and I'm back. I told you I'd come back. I mean, some people don't want me to come back, but I think a lot of you really do. So I hope you enjoyed the songs at the beginning of the show, and I can't wait for you to meet my guest, Mr. Joe Lisi. This man is a man that's been around the world more than once. Very, very intelligent person, very strong in a lot of things that he does. So I'd like to right now introduce you to Mr. Joe Lisi.
Hey, George, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime. Thank you for coming. But you're a busy guy.
Well, it's busy, but I'm glad I was able to get the time to do this. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. Yes, it will be. Because, I mean, I know you from the restaurant from Bordeaux over on 46th Street.
Mm-hmm.
A really nice place. But I'm very interested in you for the things you've done and how you've gotten. I mean, when I tell you, this is a Renaissance man. How he started, it's what it is. I mean, he started in the Marine Corps, and he was at the top when it became for a Marine. But then he went into the police force. So I'm going to start with the Marine Corps. Tell me, when you went in, what made you want to go in?
Well, my mother and father were both in the Navy in World War II.
Wow.
I'm a city kid, and I was actually working for the police department as a police trainee before I went into the Marine Corps.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I met someone, a young civilian employee, who had just come back from Vietnam. He had been in Vietnam a very short time, and he had his leg blown off.
Wow.
And this was such a fine young man. I wanted to be like him.
Right, right.
So that's what made me join the Marine Corps.
Wow, and you rose pretty far. You still doing stuff for
Well,
them,
I
too.
got all the way to corporal, which is not very far at all.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, I was a reservist to boot.
Right.
So when I got to Paris Island, which is where they train Marines on the East Coast, my senior drill instructor said, there's 3 things we don't like here. Number 1, New Yorkers. Number 2, Italians.
Ooh, that's not good.
And number 3, reservists. And I was all 3.
So you were the triple threat.
I was all 3.
So you went in like Gomer Pyle. Hi, I'm here. What do we do now?
But it was good. It was good. And to tell you the truth, I say this all the time, any degree of success that I had in my life, whether it's being a cop or an actor or even a dad, I owe it all to the values and the principles I learned as an 18-year-old at Paris Island.
18-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't understand. Back in our ages, in our generations, this is what you were out of the house by the time you were
Never
16.
wanting to go back.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then to do that, to leave your family. But your parents were both in the Navy.
They were. My mother and father were both from the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Right.
My mother was a 6-foot-tall, red-headed Irish woman with green eyes, and my father, a 5'5" Italian. So my mother said she joined the Navy because there were no boys in her family,
right.
And she felt it was her obligation to do so.
Wow. And your dad, what made him go in?
Well, he got drafted into the Navy.
Oh, okay. So he just went.
He was. at the beginning of the war, he was a civilian employee at the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Oh, okay.
Shipbuilder.
Yeah. Wow.
But eventually, they called him, and he went into the Navy.
Okay, so that's pretty good. And you picked the Marines instead of just the Navy. I know the Marines are a branch of the Navy, aren't they?
They're not a branch of the Navy.
Well, you have
Don't
to
make
tell
that
me.
mistake again, George.
I'm sorry, I made the mistake.
No,
I
I'm
can't.
sorry. The Marine Corps is the smallest of the branches.
Right.
It's part of the Navy.
Yeah, well-
we say it's the men's department
Okay.
of the Navy.
And I ain't going to kid with him, so that's what he says is what it is, or I'm getting out of here. But that's pretty good. Did you see action? Did you?
No. I was just a reservist.
Oh, okay.
So, I went for training down south and in North Carolina, and
Right.
then I went back to the reserve unit. And I was very lucky because I was, I was in the Marine Corps at a time where people were getting drafted.
Right.
I remember one of my friends in boot camp was 28 years old. He was married. He was a stockbroker. He owned a home in Barbados. He got drafted into the Marine Corps, went to Vietnam. While he was in Vietnam, his wife divorced him. He lost his house in Barbados. And it was a very tough time back then.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, people don't realize, and people don't understand. But you're doing things. You're doing things for the Marines, the vets, aren't you?
Yeah, I stay involved with them. I'm part of the Marine Corps Coordinating Council for New York City, and I do things for public affairs and for the recruiting section.
Okay.
And the Marines, it's something, they say, you join the Navy or you join the Army, you join the Air Force, but you become a Marine.
Yeah.
So when you become a Marine and you earn that title, it never leaves you.
Right.
And the Marines stay together
Okay.
for all their lives. So I still help them out and get together.
I know you're involved, and we know a person together, Renee.
Oh yeah, sure.
She's I can't speak English, but that's the way it works. I'd done a Marine mess at Tiasenio.
Oh yeah.
And she had set that whole thing up.
Yeah.
And I was going to try and get her here tonight, but it just didn't match to say hello.
So that was your surprise guest?
Well, no, we're not talking about that yet.
Okay.
But that's what wound up happening, and she's so instrumental, and she always speaks highly of you.
No.
Because I know she's told me I would love to. I know who he is. We've done stuff together, but I was very impressed at that Marine mess. It's not like a little thing.
No.
They come all dressed up. The gunny sergeant came with his cape.
Yeah.
And I was singing in between them all, and I enjoyed the whole night.
Well, the mess night is actually based on British traditions of the British Navy, but there are mess nights in the other branches as well. But it's very special. It's a special event for Marines.
Right. And I'm telling you, I'll be doing it again and it goes for you too. You ever do something that you're going to help or raise money for them, you got me.
Okay.
Because what I do, I don't make a lot of money at what I do. I love what I do.
Yeah.
And in loving what I do, you go out, and if you could help somebody, if with me, if you could put a smile on somebody's face, but if you could raise some money for somebody that's less fortunate, underprivileged, you do it.
Right.
Because what are you going to do? Are you going to sit home if you don't do it?
Well, the mess night is very interesting because following the traditions, there's also rules of the mess.
Yes.
And people violate the rules. And when the rules are violated, the person who violates it is subject to a fine.
They did that night.
Oh, yeah.
They did that. Who had to pay for something, who had to buy a gift that was going to the charity, or who had to get down and do 20.
Push-ups,
Yeah.
So be careful. If you're a civilian guest invited to a mess, don't violate any rules. It'll cost you some money.
Well, I'll be good. It's already going to cost me one way or another, but I'm going to be all right. And all I could say is I respect that. I respect them, and I respect you.
Thank you.
Because you've been through a lot more than I have. I can tell you that. It's actually gotten to the point, and I just learned something tonight, that you were working with the police before you went in.
Yeah.
What were you doing? I didn't know that part.
They had a program back then called the Police Trainee Program.
Right.
And the city would hire men and women who were not old enough to be police officers, which was 21.
Right.
So you could be hired from 17 to 21 in this trainee program. It's similar to the cadet program of today. And you did all of the training except firearms,
Right.
and then you went to work in a police facility doing administrative tasks to free a police officer to be out on the street.
Right. Okay.
And it was a great program because you got to know the inside of the department and all that. And then when you turned 21, you automatically became a police officer.
Oh, all right. I grew up in Bay Ridge, and growing up in Bay Ridge, we had the 6-8 precinct
Right.
by us, and we called them the super cops of Bay Ridge, Officer Manza and Officer
Ralph
Sterner.
Manza?
Yes.
Oh, I knew Ralph
Yeah,
Manza.
these were the super cops of Bay Ridge,
Yeah.
and they would ride around the neighborhood. If they pinched somebody or something happened, all of a sudden I'd see the car come up the block. George, come on. Is your brother around? Come on. What? Oh, we want you to stand in a lineup. We got, and you come down, it was $5. You know, they give you $5. I says, what if they pick me? Oh, well, but these were the best two guys I'd ever known. Anybody that was in the wrong and not doing the right thing, they got taken care of. It might have been unorthodox the way they got taken care of, but they got taken care of.
Well, Ralph, before he was one of the super cops of the 6-8, he was a cop with me in the 8-8.
I can't believe
which is in Bed-Stuy and Fort Greene.
Wow.
So when he left, and I'm talking about like 1971, so when he left Bed-Stuy for greener pastures, I'm sure he was very happy to be in Bay Ridge.
Oh, yeah. But and it's funny, I'm talking to you about them, and you know them. You work with them. And all I can remember is knowing of them and how they were with me. And, you know, they were neighborhood cops.
Right.
They loved the neighborhood. They watched out for the neighborhood. And you just wanted their respect to know that, okay, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
You know, even young. So that's what it was. But you know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, today they have this whole idea, this concept of community policing, that the cops are out there meeting the people and interacting with them. And that really is based on what guys like Ralph did by instinct back in the day when the cop was on the beat. But, you know, in the police academy, they used to tell us that, you know, when you're on that beat, you're Marshall Dillon. Those are your streets, and you have to take care of them. I don't think they have that same philosophy today.
Right. No.
You know, it's a much more, much less aggressive approach.
Well, let's put it this way. How can you do when people don't back you up?
Well, that's the biggest problem today.
How do you, you know, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was raised, you were raised, we were raised. There was respect in the family, there was respect to your friends, and there was respect for the neighborhood.
Right.
You didn't do things because you didn't want to break respect.
Right.
You didn't want people to be disappointed in you. That's why you didn't do something wrong.
Right.
You didn't want to be looked at. And in our neighborhoods, I've said it on many shows that I've done already. My mother always told me, George, you're outside and a cop even looks at you the wrong way. You S or go blind, you know, and that's what it was. And it was always a respect. And if a policeman was even talking to us, we could have been 10 blocks away. And a policeman might have been, come on, guys, I need you to move off the corner. He'd take the stick and hit the light pole.
Yeah.
Come on, it's time to go. You can't be in front of these guys' stores. Okay, we left. We knew them all by name.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was a respect. But you got home, it went from window to stoop, to clothesline, to window, to stoop, back to your house.
Right.
That, do you know, the police were talking to your son today?
Right. Yeah.
And when you got home, why, you embarrassed me. Why were they talking to you? Oh, they were just told there was no problem. But I was told that, you know, you are a policeman that policeman would go to. If there was a problem, you were like a policeman's policeman. That's what I was told. And that's what I was told. What was your role, you know, when you were?
It's hard to say. I mean, that's a very high compliment, and I appreciate that. Of course, when I retired, I was a captain.
Right.
So I was in command of a precinct in the 17th precinct on the east side of Manhattan, where the UN is.
Right.
But growing up, I mean, or coming up through the police department, I was very lucky. I had some very unique assignments. I was in the narcotics division for 12 years. I was a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain in narcotics.
Right.
And that was good. But I don't know if it was because of being a Marine, but, you know, the whole thing when you were in a team or in a unit, or you have people working for you, it's really about the people. That has to be, all leadership is about people.
Right.
And how you handle people. And if you deal with the people the right way, and if you care about the people,
of course,
the job will get done. And you'll wind up looking good. You don't have to go seeking, acknowledgement and notoriety. No.
Just be nice.
You push all that down.
Right.
You push, when good things are said about the team and all that, you push all that down to the people who did the job.
Right.
And, it pays.
And there it is. And that's part of what this show is all about. I tell people all the time, be good to yourself and be good to the people around you.
Right.
Because if you start there, how could it go wrong? And you just verified that.
Right.
And you did that as a policeman, as a captain, and I'm sure the people really came around you and supported you. It's funny. I had a show a couple of weeks back, and I had this broken down valise of a policeman he showed that he was working with Lee Harvey Oswald, with the psycho killer. We were just talking, and I just couldn't believe what he was telling me, what he was hiding behind. The Zodiac killer. He helped find the Zodiac killer. He's giving me all these pictures with his faces on them, and he's nothing like what you are. And that's what I've got to say.
Well, that's a very pleasant surprise.
I came from Queens.
He was sweating a little bit, and as I'm talking to him, I'm watching his eyes, because you do something he does all the time. You analyze everything that's said, and I see the computer behind. Now, who's this guy coming? What is he leading me into? What's
Right.
going on?
Yeah, I came from Queens. 4 hours to get here, but that's all right. Anyway, how you doing, pal?
Good.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
This is the real deal. All right.
Well, tell me
everything
about
you're
the-
looking. Everything you got the Marine, you got the cop, the actor. And he sings. He does. I mean, he's the whole deal. If I was a woman, I'd be jumping all over his head right now. I might do it anyway.
Oh, no, that's another show. We can't do that here. We got to say, where's Diane? Diane will throw us all out. You don't want to mess with her.
He's a piece. You got a piece of work here.
Oh,
you
God.
You got a piece of
I'll
work.
drink to that.
Yes. Was there any time that you guys crossed working?
No, just strictly social. No, we never worked together. Actually, when did you retire?
When or where?
Yeah, when?
1992.
Was it that long ago already? Really?
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I
jeez.
did 24 years.
You did 24 years.
Man,
Wow.
You look great, though, man. God almighty.
Yeah, look at him. You
Man,
look
look
up
at people ask me about Korea. I'm telling me, yeah, it was terrible. I saw a movie, God almighty, yeah. Wow, you look great, though, man. I didn't realize it was 92. I would have thought around 2000
Yeah,
or
I'm
so.
telling you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what we
Time
did,
goes fast.
It,
Yeah,
it
he
does
had,
faster than you know.
the United Nations precinct.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk
During
about tough.
dealing with all the diplomats.
Yeah, he had to deal
Yeah,
with that.
and-
I had Bensonhurst. I was like, what restaurant's opening this week? To make sure they know the captain's coming.
That's right. Set it up and make sure my parking spot's in the front of the place.
Yeah,
Well,
but you were narcotics too, right?
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years narcotics.
I mean, the police. I ran the undercover unit, and the police department sent me to Australia to do a drug school. I taught at the LAPD narcotics school.
I didn't do any of these things. Whatever
he-
he's talking about, I didn't do any of this
he
stuff.
hung out with me a lot.
Yeah, I didn't do any of this stuff. Yeah.
Well, what I want to do is now the three of us know a certain person, because you went from that to policing, and then you went to acting. And you and me and him share a person that was very close to all of that, of us, and that was Mr. Sonny Grasso.
Right.
You know what? Tell your story first, because then we're going to have him tell the story of how we met
But just for
everybody.
your viewers, if they don't, he's the one that gave Tony Soprano his $10.99 every year.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, he had to give him to justify his income. He
Yep,
gave him the
yep.
$10.99.
Well, that's, we're going to get
Yeah,
there, because
yeah.
he talked to me about
And by the
that.
way, let me tell your audience, before we go that, I think I told you, I was at a most wonderful show this weekend. It's called In Conversation with the Sopranos, and it's Steve Sciarippa, Michael Imperioli, and Vinny Pastore. They talk. They've done this all over the world.
Right.
And they're going to be on Long Island, and they've been on Staten Island. Anyway, if you see that show being advertised somewhere, definitely don't miss it. Okay. Don't miss that show. It's
Well, you heard it. You heard it now. But what happens is, again, with Sonny, well, how did you first meet Sonny? Was it through the force or was it out of the force?
Why don't you tell viewers who Sonny is first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Sonny Grasso, a friend of all three of ours. Sonny Grasso was the real-life partner to the real Popeye Doyle in the real French Connection.
Yeah, Roy Schneider played him.
That's right. Roy Schneider did play him. And after that, Sonny did the French Connection. He did the 7-Ups. He was the police technical director for The Godfather. I mean, he's worked with Frank Sinatra. He was Frank Sinatra's
Kojak, Beretta,
and
very well known in the Hollywood.
And
set
it's funny when you said that.
Yeah.
Just before we had the writer's strike or director's strike in '89, he took a place in the Chelsea Pier. He was gearing up in '89 to do Kojak, the second series.
Right.
And the strike hit. He went to Canada. I lost my movie production company.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what wound up
He had an
happening.
opportunity to buy Chelsea Pier back then for $1 million.
Really?
The whole thing.
That I didn't know.
Yeah.
So how did you meet Sonny then?
I first met Sonny, I believe, in the early 70s. He and his partner, Randy Jurgensen, were looking for people from the Black Liberation Army.
Right.
And they came to my precinct, and they had a tip that a guy named Twyman Myers was in one of the buildings in our precinct. So unlike what you see on television today, back then, they came to the precinct, just the two of them, and they grabbed 2 anti-crime cops, meaning the cops that work in civilian clothes, me, and another guy, and they said, we're going to go and see if Twyman Myers is in this house.
Right.
So we went in, and he wasn't there.
He was a bad guy.
Right.
I don't mind. Bad guy. But what command was that?
That was in the 8-8.
The 8-8. All right. So that's how you met Sonny then.
That's how I met him the first time.
Yeah, right.
Oh, so he was still on.
He was still,
definitely,
Still on the
But
job.
hell,
with him.
definitely,
Wow. That I did not realize.
And he was partnered with Randy Jurgensen then. He had no longer been a partner with Eddie Egan. And he and Randy Jurgensen, of course, was the detective that handled the shooting at the mosque of Officer Phil Cardillo.
Right.
It was very bad time back then. It was terrible.
Yeah, no, it was.
But cut away from, let's say that was 1972 or 73 till around 1982, and I get called into the chief's office. I'm now a sergeant in narcotics, and they say, we need a guy to go on Good Morning America. There's this cop, this ex-cop, Sonny Grasso, is going to be on the show, and he's going to talk about what it was like when he was in narcotics, which it was a lot different.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, so we're sending you to be on the show with him, and you're going to talk about what it's like now. And make sure, everybody's happy. So I went to the studio, and I hadn't seen him in a long time, and we spoke before we were on the air, and I said, look, Sonny, the whole thing is the department can't be embarrassed.
Right, exactly.
So, and he said, no, he would never do anything like that anyway. And I have to say, to his credit, when we did the segment, he said, like what we would say today, he could never be a cop under the conditions that the cops that we had to work in.
Right.
And the conditions now are even worse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but he was good. So, this is funny. After the segment, he said, let's go out and get a bite to eat. He wants to go to breakfast. Now, at that time, I had just started studying acting. And I knew that he was a producer. Now, when you're a young actor, it's very hard to get an agent, and it's even harder to get into the union.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
So I have my headshot and my limited resume with me because I'm going to have breakfast with Sonny Grasso.
Right.
So now we're having breakfast. It's about an hour long, and all he's talking about is the police department because he wants to know what's going on in the police department. What are all the current trends? This, that.
Right.
And all I'm talking about is show business because all I want to do
That's
is...
it. You wanted show business.
All I want to do is...
That's what we're doing here now, show business.
I want to get into show business. So finally, at the end of the conversation, I said, listen, Sonny, I don't know if you could help me or not, but I don't know if you know I'm studying, I want to be an actor and all that. I said, I have a headshot. He says, oh, yeah, give it to me. If I can ever help you, I will. I said, okay. So I get a headshot. And a few months later, I was on a surveillance. I was in narcotics, as I told you, and we were buying coke from a doctor in Lenox Hill Hospital. So we had his house on the east side under surveillance, and we had a van and we were videotaping and all that. And back then, we didn't have smartphones, but we had pagers. And if the pager went off, you knew you had to call somebody.
Right.
So I knew if my pager went off, I had to call my wife. So my pager goes off during the surveillance. So as soon as I got the chance, I got out of the van and I called my wife, and she said, Sonny Grasso's office called, and they have a part for you in a TV movie if you can do it tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
So I took the day, I was able to get the day off, and I went in, and that's how I got my SAG card, because I got a contract to be what they call a day player.
Right.
I had like 2 lines. I played a cop,
And you had lines.
ringing a bell, and I remember, I'm trying to see if anybody's home. And Bill Persky was the director of that. It's the first thing I ever did. And Bill Persky, he's doing it. We're doing it once. We do it twice. I mean, how complicated is this? And he said, hey, Joe, I have to see your face. Because, I was talking in like I would be talking into the intercom. So I had to shift a little so you could see my face.
Well, that's it. You were the script part with lines.
Right.
And you get paid. Everything that happens is how you get paid.
And then from there on, I've been very, very lucky.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. I know with myself, I had met, when I first met him, you had to see this story. I would tell him, I'm a singer. We met at Morgan Stanley then at 05.
Yeah, I was retired from the police department. I was a security manager for Morgan Stanley, and he was fire safety director.
Right.
So that's how we met.
And what winds up happening, we talk. I took a like to him. He was a nice guy. So I don't know why, but he was a nice guy.
I thought he had money. I hung out with him.
Yeah.
I thought he had money.
So now what winds up happening is we're talking, and when I find somebody that I like or I get along with, every now and again I slip. Excuse me. It's all right. I sang. Typical policeman. Oh, you sing. Oh, okay. And he put it away in his head. And then another time I says, well, I was a stuntman. In 1980, Danny Aiello threw me off the roof and fought Apache the Bronx. That was one of my first things. Lethal Weapon 1. I did the 6-story roof fall. I've done stuff for Sonny, and yeah, you were a stuntman. Okay. We got through me being a singer that he wound up taking me to a recording studio that the person that he was with says, I'm going to make them record, and why don't you sing a couple of songs? I did a couple of songs. Son of a bitch, you can sing. I said, what do you think, I was lying to you? And then the best thing was at Patsy's in the city. Well, you tell the story of what happened.
What happened? We hooked up. We started doing a Martin and Lewis type act. Okay, I was the idiot, right? He was the star, or whatever, right? So
I'm the star. I didn't know that.
So we were breaking shops, whatever, and we actually it was nice. We had a lot of fun doing the show. We had a little nice audience too. So one time we're at Patsy's upstairs. We have the show. I think it's also every seat was taken, right? Sonny shows up with Chrissy. Now I know at this point I knew Sonny 10, 12 years already. Through the Columbia Association, I met him,
right.
And I see him come up. I'm looking at him. So what are you doing here? And he goes to me. He goes, what are you doing here? I said, I'm working tonight. He goes, what are you, a waiter? And I said,
that's Sonny.
I said, no. I said, I'm opening a show for this guy that's singing. You know George? I said, yeah, you know George? He goes, yeah, he used to be one of my stuntmen. And I was like, oh, I thought he lied about that. He really wasn't. Yeah, I thought it was really. And meanwhile, we knew each other already about how many years, but none of us ever knew that we all knew each other.
That's right.
Yeah,
and then you are in the same loop, and this is what I'm trying to say. So tell me a little bit about some of the things you work with Sonny.
Well, boy, I did. Well, he had a show called True Blue. It started off as Truck One. It was about emergency service. And on that show, unfortunately we only did 13 episodes, but on that show, I played the precinct captain. And the ironic thing about that, this was in 1989. The ironic thing about that was that while I was playing the precinct captain on this NBC television show, in real life, I was also a police captain on active duty. And the irony of life is that I made more money as one day of a television captain.
That's right. That you did.
That
That's
I made
right.
all week as a real
right,
captain.
Yep.
So it was crazy, you know.
And he was the kind of guy. We had other mutual friends. I had mentioned it to you before when we were talking on the side. Joe Spinell.
Right.
Joe Spinell was a friend. Joe Spinell was the type of person in 1987, I think it was. It's right after Dirty Dancing came out. Myself and the person I was working with, I had my movie production company, it was Crystal Pyramid Productions. And we actually went into production with our own movie that we wrote, we directed, we got all the locations ourselves. I had my whole crew, and Sonny was watching him. If you need something, I'll send it to you. If you need, don't worry, it'll work. You got Joe. And Joe Spinell was playing the demon and the detective. And you know Joe Spinell, when you know Maniac, that was his was
But
his
he also
movie.
played, everybody will know him from The Godfather. He was Cheech.
Cheech, that's right.
Yeah, you remember that?
That's
when
right,
Pettignano
yep.
goes, Cheech, abort.
Yeah.
You know, like open the door.
That's it.
You know,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that was Joe's. Remember during the hearing, he's like, yes, Senator.
I put your butt.
Yeah.
We push buttons, yeah.
Yes, Senator. The family had lots of buffers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right,
it.
right.
Well, and
A wonderful guy. May he rest in peace.
He was the #1 character actor. I almost said B actor, but that's not doing him justice. He was the #1 character actor of his time. I mean, he was in French Connection. He had a small piece. He was in Taxi Driver. He
Rocky.
was the dispatcher.
He was Rocky.
Well, Rocky.
Yeah.
I swear to God, because when I was doing stunt work and all, and I was in Nighthawks with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, yeah.
We shot that in the city. And Sonny had something to do with getting me there, and so did Joe Spinell, because Joe Spinell played the captain. So they talked, and they says, you know, bring George, because we had East Coast Stuntmen's Association in New York, Alex Capoulos' crew. And they got me into that, because I was with Hal Needham's crew in California. And I would come back and forth, you know, between California and here. So I had the East Coast Stuntmen's Association. I had the American Stuntmen's Association in Connecticut, out in Sterling that I used to work with. And I had Stunts Unlimited in California. So, but as a stuntman, you only get paid if you work. And if you're off a set, you don't work.
Yeah.
And if they don't need you, and there's a lot of stuntmen, so you get this gig, you get that gig, that's when you get paid.
Right.
And then you're done. The stunt coordinator sometimes will be nice and say, well, let them stay on, we may need them. So the more days you stay on, the more money you make, because you're staying on. And then if you get the gags, you get paid even more money, because you're getting paid for the gags. But what wound up happening is, they got me in Nighthawks. They got me with Rocky, with Sylvester Stallone. He turned around once and he told me, he goes, you know, I like that guy, but he's punchier than I am. And,
Who's talking about? Joe Spinell?
Joe Spinell.
Oh,
Rocky
really? Yeah.
would say
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because Rocky, Sylvester Stallone is godfather to his daughter.
Oh, wow. Really?
That wound
Wow.
up going back to France with his wife, because he had a daughter with that lady.
Right.
And then she left, and then once his mother passed, that was the trajectory. And I would tell Sonny, I would say, Sonny, he says, watch Joe. Joe's our guy. And I was going to have him in the movie. When Joe passed.
Yeah, what a shame. He's so young.
It was. And it turns out that after that happened, Vestron pulled the $2 million promissory note they gave me to shoot my movie Crystal Clear. Because he says, well, look, you don't have a bankable star now, and
Right.
you're doing everything else on your own. But, you know, I'm happy to have known him. I'm happy to have been around him. Sonny is the kind of guy that he couldn't do more. But you work with Sonny, but you've done other stuff, too.
Yeah.
Tell me some of these people out here. Oh, there you are over there. I have to see. First I thought it was there, and then it went there. So tell them the other things you've done. You've played a policeman, and you've played other kinds of men.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Go ahead and tell
Well,
me.
that's what happens. Usually I'm either cast as a cop or a hoodlum.
Yeah.
Let's face it, you know,
Well,
one of the two.
the only difference is we have holsters.
Yeah, that's right. I might get stuck in the pants.
yeah,
You
yeah,
never
but-
know. It fell to the floor. It hit my ankle once.
But he does work with the Marines, though. You're still doing
Yeah, we
that?
did all that. We talked about
Oh, you
that.
talked about the
Yeah,
Marines?
you've been late. You didn't get here on time, damn it.
No, I was in...
That's the
Staten Island
broken valise
Expressway.
I was telling you about.
Staten Island Expressway. That's the first time I heard him sing. It was at a Marine event, and he was doing Dean Martin, and he could sing, this guy, too. Telling you.
Well, you know what?
He does it all.
it must have been the wine, I'm guessing.
I don't know.
He does it all, man.
But tell me, come on.
Well, you know, I mean, if you look at my IMDb page, it's got like about 75 things on it. But I was Dick Barone on The Sopranos, the guy who played as he said, gave Jimmy Gandolfini or Tony Soprano his 1099. I only actually did 3 episodes, but they kept my character alive through the whole thing.
Right.
And then,
tell the story you told me before backstage.
Which one?
With Sirico.
Oh.
Tell me that story. That's a good story.
Okay, so Tony Sirico is the guy who played Paulie Walnut.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So,
which might have been a guest of his in the precinct. He was in from
he was
time
on
to
the
time.
6 too. Yeah.
I'll tell you another story about Tony Sirico. But he calls me up one day, and the Sopranos now is like towards the last season, and he goes, "Hey Joe, we killed you off today. We gave you ALS. You died of Lou Gehrig's disease." I said, "You killed me off on the show. You couldn't even bring me in for a payday. Kill me on camera."
Yeah, and he was happy about it too.
But he was only kidding. But
I know.
But that was fun. Yeah. So they kept talking about this character all through it. But actually, during the time of The Sopranos, which was by far the most fun show I ever worked on.
Right.
I was also doing another television show called Third Watch, where I was playing a cop, and I did that for 6 years. So I've been really, really lucky, very blessed.
I'm telling you, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted you here too. You don't realize who people are until you stop and talk to them, and that goes along with what I've been saying all the time: be good to yourself and be good to others. And when you talk to people, listen to them a little bit, because they will tell you stories. And like I said, look at where we've been, and look at, somebody see you on the street, they wouldn't, you were on the golf course before. No, people don't know.
Right.
And now they know. And I mean, you've done what's some of the other movies?
Well, when you're on
done
television, I have to tell you, people know. I mean, or when I was on Broadway, for example, there was a period in my life, 8 months, where I was in a Broadway show, and I was doing Third Watch at the same time. Right. So for those 8 months, I didn't have a single day off, because in Broadway, it's dark on Monday. So Third Watch always made me work on Monday.
Right.
But then Third Watch would have to let me go on Wednesday for the matinee, and I'd have to do the Saturday matinees and things like that. And the other thing they did for me, which was simply incredible, I was in London doing this play that ultimately went to Broadway when they started shooting the season of Third Watch, the television show. And what they did for me was, when I got back, because when I got back from London, we were probably into episode 3. They had, shot around me, they shot around me. And believe me, I was no big star on this show, but I was one of the, regular characters. But they had shot around me, and when I came back, we did all those scenes to make up in a couple of weeks, that they could insert them into the first 3 episodes.
Right.
Now, they didn't have to do that. They could have written me out of the show. They could have written me off the show.
But they didn't.
Because
they liked you.
Well, I hope so.
You
Joe,
brought
as an
something
actor,
to it.
What, in terms of the art of acting, what did you prefer, the stage or the camera?
Well, it's 2 different things. I mean,
That's a good question.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
a good thing. Well,
I really don't care what the answer is. I just wanted.
He just wanted to ask the question.
I'm just curious, seriously though, because
that's why I brought him.
There's no take 2 when you're on a stage.
No, once the curtain goes up, the show goes on, and you have to go through to the end. Now, there's nothing at all that substitutes for the live audience being there.
Right.
Yep.
And the audience is actually part of the show, because as an actor on stage, you can feel the audience. You know when the audience is getting it, and you also know when they're not getting it. So the impact the audience has on a live performance is genuine. In television or in a movie, like you say, we do it, we don't like it, we do it again, we do it some more, we change this, we change that. But unless you're a big name, there's more money in that than there is on the stage.
Here, let's do a test right now. I'm going to prove his point now, to what he said, to be on the stage and get the feedback, because I'm a live performer also. I've done 2 Broadway shows. I'll tell you about them when I'm finished with this. But again, you're on the stage, you got the people, they're clapping, they build you up, or they could bring you down. When you do television, crickets. because you're not playing to anything.
Yeah, but it's
And-
also a different technique, you know.
Yes.
The camera catches everything, so you're kind of small.
Yeah.
When you do things, you don't have to do a lot.
You don't have to do big. You don't.
When
No
you're
mugging.
acting
Don't
on
mug.
stage,
Yeah.
the people in the back have to get what you're saying.
That's right.
and see what you're doing.
That's right.
So it's kind of a different technique, you know.
Well, and that's what happens. That's where I get stuck a lot. I get stuck a lot, doing live performance, I mug. But when you're doing live, you're mugging. When you're doing this, you're not supposed to mug. You're not supposed to over-exaggerate anything. You're not supposed to let words go longer because it's just that type of thing. I just have to ask. But, Joe, I got to tell you, I thank you for being here. We didn't have enough of time.
Okay.
But, we'll come back. Again, I didn't know he was a Broadway actor. I did not know. I did a Coolest Cat in Town. It went from high school to City Center Theater. Then I turned out and did Grease for 6 months. That I was Kanicki before. I played Grease Lightning was mine. So you see the movie with John Travolta. Grease Lightning belonged to him. No,
You were on the car.
I was on the car, and I didn't want to give it back. But again, I got to tell you, thank you. And you know what? We're going to work together. Listen to me. How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Take it.
Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head?
Ernie, chime in.
The room was completely black. I kissed her and she kissed back. Like the sailor said, quote,
See, you didn't
ain't
think you were
got a
going to do
love
this.
in a boat.
Here, we got this camera here.
My head keeps spinning.
I go to sleep again.
Grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. There's sunshine enough to spread.
Do another one.
It's just like that fella said. Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head?
I told you we were doing it. And we're not finished. We're doing the whole song.
Oh,
I
my
had
God.
that set up in there. Little Kevin Spacey too.
Like the fellow once said, ain't that a kick in the head?
Tell me.
The room was completely black. I hugged her and she hugged back. Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in the boat? My head keeps spinning. I go to sleep, I keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful.
She's telling me we'll be wed, just you.
She's picked out a king-size bed.
I couldn't feel any better or I'd be sick.
Everybody,
Yeah.
tell me quick,
Oh,
I ain't love a kick. Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head.
Joe, thank you.
That's the man. That's the man.
Now that was great, wasn't it? I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having
and
us.
thank you.
We're getting
And-
paid a lot of money to be here.
Oh yeah, $3.80.
it's
That's
not
what
all
they
about
said.
money, Ernie.
Yes, it is.
That's what
Yeah,
I
it
keep
is.
saying,
Yeah, it's
but they
about
won't
money,
listen
yeah.
to me. Okay, I want to thank you. The show is That's Life. I'm George Pettignano. I can't wait to see you again, and I hope you come back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's life.
That's life.
Oh, that's what all the people say. Sometimes you're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune when I'll be back on top